Good evening and happy Labor Day. My name is Dr. P. Dominique Padurano, Ph.D., founder and head coach of Crimson Coaching, expert academic assistance for students aged 5 and up. For those of you who have been watching prior episodes of the College App Countdown course, you have in the past few weeks filled out the demographic information found on the Common App, including your own educational experience and grades and scores, as well as those of your parents. And you've brainstormed all 7 Common App questions, and hopefully over the past 2 weeks, you have actually written 2. So what I'd like you to do with those 2 drafts for now is, if you're generally happy with them, I'd like you to set them aside and over the next couple of weeks kind of ruminate on them. Think which one you like better, which one kind of portrays you in the best light. And if you have a difficulty with this process, you can think about sharing both essays with a trusted friend, a parent, or a guidance counselor to get his or her feedback on that. But that doesn't mean that you're off the hook for work for this week. This week, we are going to kind of shift our focus away from writing, and we are going to talk about the all-important college list. Where are you actually applying? And we're going to think about narrowing down your list, because it's my experience that in working with students at this stage, early September, that most students' college list is still quite long, and many people feel a little bit overwhelmed and not sure how many schools they should apply to, where they should apply to. So that's what we'll talk about this week. So first, let's talk about numbers. I believe that give or take 1 or 2 on either side, a really nice amount of schools is 3 reach, 5 target, and 3 safety schools. And I'm sure you know how to judge what's reach and what's safety and what's target for you. You want to compare your SAT and ACT scores to those of incoming freshmen at the school. Compare your GPA as well. And then, if you have any other super talents, if you don't have any talents, you may want to kind of factor that in. And of course, always consult your college counselor about that. That being said, I hope you've spent a good portion of junior year vacations, and perhaps even this past summer, visiting some of those schools that you're so interested in. That's really the best way for you to figure out which ones really click with you, where you feel like you would have the best experience for 4 years. There are also a few, at least in New York, a few school holidays that you can take advantage of between now and the early app deadline of November 1st. A couple in September, Jewish holidays, as well as Columbus Day in October. However, I realize that school visits are not always within everybody's financial means. So what are you going to do if you either don't have the time or the financial resources to visit all of the schools or any of the schools on your list? Well, of course, you're going to visit the website of the school. And I suggest keeping track of all your impressions in a very organized fashion, such as an Excel spreadsheet. You could make it on Google Docs if you'd like. And you just have columns for each of the following categories that I'm going to talk about. So for instance, you might have the school name first and then geography. Think about, do you want to go to school where it's warm or where it's cold? In a city or in a suburb, or maybe even in a rural environment? All of these things should factor in. And then give your rating of that school, or I should say, give a rating of that school based on, I would say, 10 points if it absolutely meets your geographic needs, to 1 point if it doesn't at all. And hopefully none of them on your list will be 1 in any of your categories. The next thing, of course, that I think you should think about would be the academic programs, especially if you have a very particular plan of study. You want to make sure, obviously, that that college or university offers that course of study. Many students, though, at 17 years old are completely undecided about what they want to major in, and that's fine. And in that case, I would stick with either a liberal arts college that offers a wide variety of programs of study, or a state school, which is going to be large and, of course, also then have many different courses of study that you can choose from, and will also have usually a lower price point than a private liberal arts college. The next factor is really inspired in part by a recent Frank Bruni column in the New York Times, in which he argues that students should really make the most of forming relationships with mentors and professors at their college, no matter where they go. And so part of that formula for you at this point in judging where you want to go is, I believe, it's easier to do that in a smaller class size. So you want to find out the average teacher-student ratio. And obviously, if most classes are over 300 people, it's going to be more difficult for you to establish a relationship with a professor, but of course not impossible, because all professors have office hours. And even if you go to a school that has large lecture halls as the rule, of course you should make it your business to go to office hours every week, especially in a subject where you may want to pursue further study, or where that professor may have ideas or connections to help set you up either with an internship or with a letter of recommendation for grad school or something like that. And so again, I would rate academic program and class size from 1 to 10, just like you did for geography. And then the last category that I would really pay close attention to on the website itself would be opportunities for you to engage fully in the life of the school. Frank Bruni mentions that this is really important, again, no matter where you go to school. So for instance, can you engage in research? Can you, even in an extracurricular activity, like for instance on the newspaper, if you become editor-in-chief, that's an amazing skill that if you are an aspiring journalist, you can then put on your resume. And so how much life is there in terms of activities and extracurricular opportunities at the school? And again, even if there's not a whole lot, for instance, if you're starting off at a community college, college is always what you make of it, and I'll be talking about that in the last week of our course at the end of October. And so you can always pursue extracurricular opportunities on your own as well. The last category I would be sure to evaluate for you would be your impressions of the students that are there. Does this seem like a place where you could make friends, where you would feel comfortable? And obviously this is best assessed on site if you were in person and able to, say, go to a class or sit down in the dining hall. But even if you're not, and you're not able to go that, some colleges now actually set up virtual buddies, so you can text a current student and ask him or her questions. And so if you're not able to attend that college in person, I really recommend doing that. And so at the end, you should have at least 5 columns judged. Each category should have a score of 1 to 10. And I think if you add them all up and then you have this big long list, that may help you make better sense of all of this jumble of information that somehow is your general impressions of college, it may be a little easier for you to do that if you try to quantify some of those impressions and break them down. And of course, if you have any specific concerns other than these, then just add another column. So that is episode 5 of the College App Countdown course, narrowing down your college list. Again, I am Dr. P, Dominique Padurano, founder and head coach of Crimson Coaching. And please feel free, if you have any comments on this episode or any questions, to leave feedback right on the Facebook page, or you can always email me at info@crimsoncoaching.com. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week again at 9 p.m. Bye-bye now.